Afternoon. This is the Athens Community Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting for April 16th, 2020. And it's 2:12. And I make a motion to call the meeting to order.
So move.
Okay. We have introductions, board members. It looks like most of us are here today. Missing a couple, but it's all good. Move on to old business here. It looks like we have Athens Parks and Rec updates. Terry?
Okay, yes. Hello, everyone. As indicated on the agenda, really wanted to do a update of the department, what's happened since we've closed the facility and since we've last met, as well as identify some perceived challenges for the department moving forward, as well as impacts. But again, I'd like to check in with board members and just find out how everybody's doing. Have you been using the parks? Maybe what some of your observations are there. Just really to connect on a different level, since we are using this platform than say we've done when we've all been in the room together.
I have not ventured out all that much. I've driven around town a few times, but it's been pretty quiet from what I've seen. So, anyone else?
I've been to Camp Rotan quite a lot, just because I'm about a half mile from there. And so my daughters and I have been hiking various places, but we'll tend to end up there. And it's interesting because I've seen probably a handful of people in the last few weeks there, and typically you go over there and there's no one there. So they're being used more by people in my neighborhood. And a couple things I noticed. Well, we always pick up trash. Usually over there, there's not much. And at one point, one of the bridges had a tree come down on it, but that was probably a month and a half ago. And I was impressed because it was cut and removed, and then there was a couple boards replaced on the bridge the next time that I went out, which was only a few days later. So I was impressed on the speed of that. The one thing I've noticed there, and this is more coming from my wildlife background, there are some invasive species of mainly shrubs, like autumn olive is one where there's pockets of it coming in. And my preference for something like that is to remove them. They're easy to pull them mostly. The larger ones, you could dig them out, you could just cut them back. But basically what I notice is if they're removed, there's other species like flowering dogwood. I noticed some young ones there, redbud, that would probably be there in the place of the autumn olive. And that's one of those species where if you let them go, the whole field will become autumn olive. Now, I wouldn't see that happen in Camp Rotan because it's wooded, but that is one thing I noticed and thought I'd just share with you. I have hand pulled some, but I haven't really, mostly we've just been enjoying it and hiking around, so.
Thanks,
I'll go.
Daniel.
Yeah, I'll go. We live over here on the Far East Side, and literally I can look across the street into, I guess that's Sells Park. I don't know where the dividing line is between Sells and the state park out there. But I know quite a few people hiking in that area, which makes it very easy to stay apart. One thing that I will comment on, I'm an avid golfer, and the golf course has been deserted for weeks. But I got a text yesterday afternoon from a former city council member that said that there were all kinds of people over there golfing, which I'm thinking about doing myself when it warms up. point being, as people use the bike path and travel the bypass and see people on the golf course, there might be a subtle message there that outdoor recreation areas are open again, which may take some additional enforcement on our part, since all of our outdoor facilities are closed down. Golf courses in Ohio are legally allowed to be open. There's some what do you call it, restrictions on what you can do. Many courses have eliminated carts, so it's walking only. But again, as people see more and more people out on the OU golf course, if that continues, again, it may send that message to people that our facilities too are open. So Terry, that's something that perhaps you and the mayor, or you and the city service safety director may have to have a conversation about.
Sure. Just to follow up on that a little bit, the Athens Police Department is monitoring areas that are closed in our parks. So that's an ongoing conversation. They provide feedback and with things they're seeing, as well as our staff's providing feedback to them as well.
If it's all right, I just wanted to, Alan, you mentioned the bikeway. I've been on it a few times, mostly in the morning, but sometimes in the afternoon. And it's interesting because that used to be where I felt safest on a bike, and now I feel more safe on the county roads, which I never really felt unsafe there. But my point being is there's a lot of use on the bike path, walkers and cyclists and so on. And it seems like in a lot of the cases, the only way to get people to give me a safe distance is to ride at them until they move. So that's also, you know, something that it is a little concerning to me. I feel like, you know, for the most part, everybody's practicing the distancing, but it feels like it's a little more like you get the feeling that it's more relaxed, and that it's okay, which I don't know if it is. So I just wanted to mention that.
Who else is out there that wants to check in with something? All right, if not, I had hoped to be able to pull up my screen because I put together a PowerPoint, but unfortunately that's not happening. What I'll do is I'm going to pull it up on my end, and I'll review that and then pause to answer any questions or gain any feedback. Does that sound good? So as far as department updates, I'll start with personnel, and we presently have full-time staff. All of our full-time staff are in a paid work status. The majority working from home 2 to 3 days per week, and working in the office on those other days. I've staggered those schedules for staff to minimize risk from a safety standpoint. So we probably have maybe 2, maybe 3 people at the most at the community center on any given day. 1 working upstairs and maybe two downstairs, or vice versa. Arts West is a little different, so the program specialist is working out of that office roughly 4 days a week. Our maintenance staff, we're full staff there, and they're on site 5 days a week with parameters in place to minimize risk, driving separate trucks, working in separate areas. So we're putting those practices in place, or have those practices in place. 95% of the APR staff is designated as non-essential, and that changes based on need. And we have a temporary policy in place with the city that allows us to move within non-essential and essential based on what the department needs and or the city needs. All of our part-time staff has been furloughed with the exception of 2 part-time maintenance workers. We have not currently hired seasonal maintenance workers, and we have a handful of seasonal workers for the pool that have been activated but haven't actually started. Our summer camp staff, the majority of that staff, 95% of that staff has been hired but not in a work status yet. Any questions with regard to personnel?
Hey, Terry, this is Travis. You can see me, I guess, right? We can't see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Travis.
So for the personnel that's going into the office on certain days, do you have specific practices that they implement? Like, do they have to wear a face mask? I'm just asking because I know OU, we get changes every day. So now if we come onto campus and enter into a building, we must wear a face mask. But I was just wondering if you had set specific practices for your personnel coming into the office.
So yes, Travis, and when you said it changes every day, it changes every day. We're making changes day by day, and to the extent that we can, week by week, as we learn more. But yes, there's the social distancing that's practiced. High touch surf areas are cleaned by the custodians, but also by staff before and after when they start work and before they leave. Cleaning and sanitizing desk areas, phones, copiers, those sort of things. As for mask, we have employees that are wearing masks. We haven't mandated that or required that, I should say, but I am ordering masks this week for all personnel that are currently working. That is something that I see that we're going to have to likely do as we bring on other staff. And you know, we're making note of that and provisionally trying to put things in place because there is a concern for purchasing masks. The masks that we're purchasing are being made by someone that's making masks here locally. The plan is to purchase 2 per person right now. Maintenance staff prefers to wear bandanas, and I'm fine with that. But I do see this likely developing into our new policies as we develop those.
Okay, thank you. And I might be jumping the gun, but since you mentioned summer personnel, is there any status update on your summer programming?
So can we table that until I get to
Absolutely.
facilities and seasonal hiring?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, anything else on personnel?
Yeah, Terry, I have one question on personnel. I understand at the end of this month, we are going to be losing a couple people who were on the organizational chart that you shared with us back in February, Colton, and I can't remember the other person's name, who will be moving to either custodial or maintenance. What's going to happen there?
So right now, the plan is we potentially lose Colton on the 24th. I need to revisit that and with HR because it's likely that we want to keep him on if we can't fill that position. And then as far as the other position, Dane's position, He will be training with the custodian. Ken Bolin is retiring the end of this month. So Dane is training with Ken Bolin in the next couple weeks, and we'll move into that custodial position. But with the new temporary policy that's in place, we have the flexibility to move employees, say from the custodial position to outside. So right now we're having them share those responsibilities, and with the new temporary policy that came out from HR, we can exercise that flexibility.
Okay, the second
As
question,
far
at
as-
at the Athens in Blue meeting yesterday, it was mentioned that seasonal people, and I'm assuming this is in grounds, that's kind of on hold for right now. How will we keep up with the staff that we have if we get no seasonal people for this summer? And again, like Travis said, I may be jumping the gun here if that's a topic for one of these other bullet points.
So yes, seasonal hires are on hold. Ron Lucas, who's the HR director, has indicated that once there's a release there as far as seasonal staff, that we will get above and beyond the 5 positions that we have. With that said, I'm working with Kevin to manage and minimize and prioritize projects. So their focus right now is ground maintenance. We've pulled back on projects, so that's manageable. But that was an HR decision that I'll be revisiting as we, as we move into and through the hiring process. We have a number of positions that we still have 3 positions at Arts West that are vacant. I have not, and I'll just say this, there's not been any indication that there'll be a reduction in staff. And that was as of last week. And I posed that question to try and determine what may be coming from the auditor's office and from city administration, but that's not been indicated. Anything else on that, Alan? I hope I answered that as far as seasonal. Right now, we are in a holding pattern, so just confirming that.
Yep. Thank you very much.
I had a question, Terry.
Anything else? Yeah.
I think right around this was happening, we're trying to hire the facilities operations manager. Did this whole thing get stopped because of that, or were you guys able to finish that, or?
So, yes, we've completed the interviews. That was delayed. We had one of the 3 candidates, we had one that we hadn't interviewed because that interview was postponed. It was kind of right at the initial onset of COVID. Mm-hmm. With that said, we've completed the interviews, and as far as making a selection, we've not done that. We've reached out to all 3 candidates to let them know that we've postponed that. I am kind of gauging that based on pool opening right now and what may come from the auditor's office. If I can save that salary, if I need to step in that position and the capacity to open the pool for 2 or 3 months, then I will do that. Right now, my priority is to make sure that the full-time staff that I have now, that their jobs are secure and we can continue to pay them. So strategically looking at that, that's kind of where I'm at. It would be really helpful to have that position filled, but at the same time, not knowing if we're going to open the pool facility, I'm kind of hedging there and considering that if that's an area that I need to step into to make that happen this summer, that I could do that, as well as other staff, because I think our programming is going to be structured much differently.
Okay, thanks.
So we still have the position. There, you know, and these are conversations that I'm having on a continuum with HR.
Cool.
So one other point, you know, just as far as personnel, with how we're working, you know, it's been my objective really to let them adjust to working from home, even because it's an adjustment for some. You know, as many of you know, I've got staff that have children, and just trying to manage that with the spouse and those type of things, or just adjust. They really prefer to be in the office, and that's why I went to a more staggered office environment, because they want that structure, because it's hard to work from home. Also making sure they have, you know, the resources, whether it's taking their computer home and making sure they have internet service and those types of things. So we've worked through that these last couple of weeks, but I make it a point to check in with them. Our staff meetings are more frequently. They are Wednesdays at 10, and we do a check-in just to check on each other. And then we're keeping work logs, and we review some of the items on those work logs. Something else that we're doing is, as far as engagement and wellness, beyond staff, is reaching out to our members, our Silver Sneaker members, and we're actually picking up the phone and reaching out and calling members, and just different partners that we have that we do business with regularly, just to let them know. We don't have all the answers, but just to let them know that we're thinking about them and answer the questions that we can answer. So, anything else there? So I'll talk about programs and classes a little bit. All of our spring programs and classes have been canceled or postponed. That includes youth soccer, our adult fitness and wellness classes, preschool, afternoon arts program at Arts West, and before and after care. We've been in the process of issuing refunds or credits, depending on the customer preference. So there's a lot of behind the scenes admin work that's happening now to get those refunds processed, because we typically budget maybe $500 for refunds a year, and we have you know, those have increased considerably. Another thing we're doing is just tracking revenue and program loss by the week, and trying to predict out what that looks like in the event that, you know, we have to cancel summer camp and those kind of things. So we're working with the auditor's office just to manage refunds and credits and those sort of things. Summer camp is scheduled to start June 3rd. We have not pulled the trigger on that. And that will likely be dictated by the governor's orders. You know, there's days when I feel optimistic, and there's days when I, you know, feel realistic and don't know that, you know, we'll be able to offer that program. And then program specialist that oversees that is thinking through what that looks like if we do offer it, and there has to be the social distancing. So, and I'll talk about that a little more when I talk about impacts and challenges. But any questions about programs?
Terry, does the summer camp program, does that fall under same rules and regulations as preschool, or is that treated more like the public schools? And I ask that in the context of the public schools. 25 states have already closed for the rest of the year. Ohio may be fairly close behind. So I'm trying to figure out what our camp would fall under, public schools or preschools, because the rules are a little bit different.
So we followed the ODJFS guidelines. So that will follow preschool and before and after care. We'll follow the rules of those programs. And which did you say had closed? Summer camps had closed?
No, not summer camps.
Alan?
Public schools in 25 states are closed for the rest of the
Right.
year. Yeah. And they're adding to that list daily. Just around Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are all closed for the remainder of the school year.
Anything else on programs? I will mention memberships. We have contacted all of our members. We are suspending memberships and then extending those memberships once we open. Again, as things change, we may have to modify that a bit, but right now, for the most part, that's been well received.
Terry,
Yeah.
do you have any plans to keep in touch with those people whose accounts you've suspended in hopes of having just about all of them continue to be members once things open up again?
Yes, and we have contacted them, and they are, they're aware. They're in agreement with the extension and having that membership extended for whatever period of time that it was suspended. Other things that aren't readily evident, are drop-in classes that we have, personal training, gift certificates that we sell. Those are our point-of-sale type programs. We have day passes, punch cards, and then facility rentals. We are not taking any new facility rentals, and we have postponed or canceled and refunded facility rentals through May. So we've reached out to those customers as well. Any other questions there? So I'll move into facilities and parks. As mentioned, Arts West is closed. We've been doing deep cleaning there and have some recent roof repairs that are going to be done there. The community center, I want to say as of March 16th, has been closed. We've been doing deep cleaning, high dusting, and spring cleaning in the admin office, organizing, going through files, just things that we had not been able to get to. A repair is scheduled to replace the compressor in the HVAC system. So that PO is in place. That's with Johnson Controls. We use them through a government contract through Sourcewell. That repair is estimated at roughly $20,000, just under $20,000. Swimming pool, we are moving forward and planning as if we were opening with a hold on, we have requisitions and purchase orders in place with vendors that we've used in the past, but those they've been approved. The auditor's office is holding those. We are prepared to purchase as needed if there was a a lift and we could potentially open the pool. So provisionally, we're doing everything we can to hire seasonal employees, although that's a bit of a challenge because some of these, as you know, lifeguards, some of them are students, most of them are students, and some of them have gone home. So lifeguards, cashiers, do have a handful of those employees that have been hired. We're in continual contact with them. I've been in touch with the Red Cross and the Ohio Aquatics Council as well. I sat in on a national call, aquatics call yesterday, and the Red Cross has extended lifeguard certifications. Initially, it was 30 days. They've extended those certifications 120 days. So what that means is if a lifeguard, their certifications was expiring in April or May, they're extending those certifications 120 days now. So that's something that is going to be helpful because of certification and training requirements and how those trainings have traditionally been done. Parks, our maintenance crew, routine mowing and edging. They've got some landscape projects underway with removals and plantings planned. They are working 5 days a week with a staggered schedule. Any questions on parks and facilities?
I have a question about the plantings. I know that earlier you were saying that one of your goals was to have more pollinator gardens put in. Is that still on the agenda for this year?
So I can tell you that we were working with the West Side Neighborhood Association to put in a pollinator garden at Arts West, and that group has suspended their meetings. Other pollinator gardens, we don't have anything slated. I think that this crisis has shifted priorities a bit with our park staff, and will continue to shift those priorities. In the event that we open parks, there's going to be an increased frequency for cleaning park facilities, restrooms. So we're rethinking some of that. I know Kevin and Colton have been involved with American in Bloom, which is a separate project. But as far as other, I wish I could say that we had more on our agenda, but we just don't.
Terry, two quick
But
questions.
we'll keep it on the radar, Beth.
Terry, two quick questions. One related to Arts West. Arts West is closed. Does that include the Lending Musical Library?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And then the second question related to grounds. Since Sandlot will not be playing, and more than likely our city rec baseball and softball will be delayed, has any thought been given to raising the height of the mowers so that we're not mowing at 2 or 3 inches, but maybe at 4 or 5?
So that's a great suggestion, Alan. And Kevin and I can tell you, Kevin and I haven't had that conversation. I know that he's not put a lot of energy into those fields, like he would have where he would have normally been this time of year. But I can have that conversation with him. But I think that's a great suggestion.
In fact, maybe even mowing in general. That was one of the things that came out of the first American Balloon visitation, that they felt, and this was their opinion, and everyone's entitled to one, but their opinion was that as a city, we mow too short. And there are both cost issues with that and environmental issues. So the shorter you mow, the more often you have to mow. And then the environmental issue is the shorter you mow, the less it keeps weeds from growing, and the more water that you end up using. So might be a good time just across the board to raise our mower blades a little bit, not only on the ball fields, but the common areas around the town, particularly if we're not going to have seasonal help. And Kevin's staff will be covering the same acreage with fewer people than they normally cover in the summertime.
Sure, great suggestion, Alan. I'll have that conversation with him. I know last year we identified some no-mow areas, and I know there's been conversation around that with regard to the bike trail. So I'll revisit that. I can follow up in our next meeting. One thing I do want to say, since we're talking about East State Street, is we had a community group, and Beth, I think you may have had conversation with somebody from that group, but we talked about what they wanted to do was a project to paint the swing sets at West State Street because they're in dire need. It had been my hopes that we put a new playground in there. That was the first year I came in, and then that was backburnered. But I would like to, and I've got a quote on it, I would like to just replace the swing set down there. Here's one of the challenges. How do I justify buying new playground equipment with our playgrounds closed? So those types of things that I normally wouldn't run through the auditor's office or run uptown, those will be, that's something, because there's a lead time on playground equipment. We wanted to have that in this spring. Because
Terry?
again, we've had, yeah.
I would say that you could try to make the argument that it makes sense to make improvements and take care of maintenance while there are not people using the parks, and that this is actually a perfect time to do things like that.
Agreed. And with your support, I will definitely do that.
I'll take it a step further. If we were going to be replacing equipment, to Beth's point, nobody's around playing on it. But secondly, all businesses across America are affected right now. And not that we want to take advantage of people's negative situations, but people are looking to sell. And we might be able to extend our dollar a little further, keeping people at work, but also being aware of what the city budget is and what we can afford going forward. Because as we all know, it's not going to be the same in 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months. So I think Beth's point's very well taken. They're closed down. We're not endangering anybody. Plus, it gives people a little bit of hope. When this is all over, or at least when it's calmed down and we get out, look what we can get on and look at what we can play with. People are looking forward to things like that.
All right, great. I agree. Those are, and those are things that, we've put in motion. Again, I'll work through that with city administration and the auditor's office. We do have the money. It's, it's minimal cost for some much needed improvements. Let's see. Next, I've just kind of listed out what the impacts and challenges are, the initial impacts and challenges are with COVID-19. And the obvious is an impact to services for people in the community with closed facilities, park playgrounds, and park amenities. We've canceled and postponed programs. So that quality of life and level of recreation engagement. The other is with our staff and loss of jobs for part-time staff and potential loss for seasonal employment. And then, that loss of service impacts our youth, our adults, and our seniors. And, budget-wise, loss of revenue, especially for 271, which is our recreation fund that supports the community center. So those are just the most obvious impacts. Some of the challenges as we move forward is planning and operations of facilities and what a new normal or, with future imposed physical distancing and social distancing, whether it be the community center, Arts West, in our parks, at our pool. I identified some of the challenges with staffing, and that's hiring, orientation, and training for seasonal staff. As mentioned, our summer camp staff, we have 95% of that staff hired. I think we might need to fill 3 or 4 positions. So those camp counselors are just waiting. The aquatic staff probably have 15% of that staff hired, with rehires and the objective of having all lifeguards and cashier hired by April 24th. That was our original objective. I sat in on a call, a national call yesterday with an aquatic association, which was very good. There were 144 different agencies on the call. And a number of agencies in the Cuyahoga and Akron area, they've already made the call not to open their pools. Columbus, they're having that conversation now. Across the nation, I think there's been 19 other agencies that have already made the call not to open their facility. So it's, it's a bit of a moving target as we try to plan to open, but we're moving forward provisionally to try and put as many things in place as we can. Some of the things that came from that call were, with social distancing. Well, one, what would be, the permitted capacity, and what others are hearing from the CDC is that it would be at 25% capacity. There would be social distancing or physical distancing requirements. And then, you think through how that's going to be monitored and managed. Is it lifeguards managing it? As you drill down deeper, what's that occupational hazard for lifeguards making saves? How do you determine, who gets in the facility? And that social distancing would need to be at entry lines, concession. And this is just some of the feedback I got yesterday. So, yeah, needless to say, after that 3-hour call, my head was spinning. But, these are things that we need to think about. And with the, with the unknowns and even into the future, and just how we manage facilities, whether it be the rec center, shifting gears from the pool. I'll say that, and thinking through how we operate and manage the community center, right? Our past practice has been that we've got a senior center on one end of the facility. We've got a preschool and our school kids that function in the center of the facility, and then we've got our fitness and classes on the other end of the facility, and just trying to determine how that and it is a community center. It's a congregate type place. Seniors have congregate dining at the community center. So those are all things that I'm discussing with staff, and As I know more, I'm posing that to our city administration, our leaders uptown. So I'm sure there's probably a number of other challenges, but as we think through those through this, those are the most evident right now. On that call yesterday, I never thought about how a lifeguard blows their whistle, if they have a mask on, and do we require them to wear a mask? So, yeah. Any thoughts or feedback?
Terry, just a question. So when you talk about loss of revenue, are you talking about immediate loss or projected loss of revenue?
So we're doing both, and we're monitoring it weekly, and then monthly, and then projecting out. And just to give you an example, memberships May through August, that could potentially be a revenue loss of $29,000, average monthly of $7,200. And we've done that with day passes, punch cards, facility rentals. We're looking at our overhead costs monthly as well. We've identified, potential loss, average monthly loss for drop-in classes, personal training, gift certificates. The biggie is summer camp. That gross revenue is $93,000. Swim lessons is a biggie for our 270 fund. I want to say that's at close to 67,000. The other side of that is with that projected, as with summer camp and swim lessons and pool programming, rentals, and those things that happen there. Concession, I think concession, we brought in like $70,000, but we don't have those expenditures, whether it be staff, product, those types of things too. That'll be the next thing I start to look at, is what the difference is there as far as the projections. So yeah, we're looking at all of it and tracking it and monitoring it.
Thank you.
So Terry, since this is live streamed and also when recorded, and so the general public doesn't hear those numbers and suddenly think that if you added all that up, $200,000-$400,000 that we're behind, I think it's very, very important that we get the net on this out as quickly as possible, because the difference between net and gross loss in revenue is significant. It is very, very significant. So it may be that we're only going to be down 20,000. We could have 40. I'm just picking figures out of the sky, but we're certainly not going to be down a net of $300,000 or $400,000.
Right. No, good point, Alan. And, I gave the example of summer camp. And I think that, our expenditures for summer camp are close to 43,000, 45,000. So that net is the balance of that. So. As far as, I think that's it. And the other thing is as we move through this, thinking about what our programs look like in the future. We've discussed wanting to move towards outdoor programming. I don't think there's a better time right now to look at outdoor programming and what that might look like for youth and adults. So we're having program specialists and I are having conversations around that and what that might look like. You know, summer camp will, you know, if it's a, how would we offer camps or programs for 10 or less and those types of things. So as you're thinking about this, if you have thoughts and ideas, if you know, please share. Again, I've been in touch with the Ohio Parks and Rec Association, staying in touch with agencies, National Parks and Rec Association, reading information that they're putting out. So there's some good platforms to gain insight and information with what other agencies are thinking through and how they're going to implement and adapt to a change in the way we may offer services.
Hey, Terry. I would add something too about outdoor events. Something I'm hearing just with, you know, events is, you know, there's going to be a different enclosed events versus outdoor things are going to be handled differently as far as like the, you know, capacity wise. So I think, you know, one of the things about having outdoor events and having that is, you know, those can resume sooner at their capacity. You know, I mean, one of the things we're talking with Brew Week is we're a little luckier because we're having our, if it happens, you know, outdoors versus inside a giant convention center, you know, and, you know, assuming the next 10 years or something, we have if it's a pollution thing or another COVID or something like that, you know, keeping that in mind, I think is definitely good for the department.
Yeah, good point, Brandon. Thanks. So what are you hearing as far as events and festivals on your end and how those may be managed with the physical distancing and social distancing?
It's you know, I've been talking with Paige at the Visitors Bureau, and well, everything's getting canceled. I mean, that's, you know, and Dan could probably talk to his event, you know, some Music Fest was canceled. There hasn't really been a whole lot of discussion that I've heard about what the social distancing will be, because most people have just flat out either canceled or postponed and pushed to, you know, September, hoping that we're back to normal. But we've been just having discussions of, you know, what Brew Week looks like. You know, can we do, you know, last call? Can we do BrewBQ and stuff like that? And, you know, looking at different ways of, because, you know, everything I keep hearing is, you know, oh, it's May 1st and it'll be June 1st. And, you know, it's starting to become more dire. But yeah, I mean, most people are really just waiting to hear, you know, they have many plans of, okay, we're going to do this in a different way. It's really, we can't do this, you know, it just doesn't work. You know, we have 6,000 people, we can't, you know, do that. But we've looked at some things like if there is some sort of cap, you know, it may be doing a last call type event, but scheduling people. So, you know, let's say we can only have 200 or 300 people at one time. Maybe people would sign up from 1 to 2, and then they would come in and try the beer. Then another group would come in and, you know, have different wristbands and stuff, and then move people around and, you know, try and monitor it that way, at least if we are allowed to do that. But the most of the reality has been, you know, without knowing where we are, you know, there's just been a lot of cancellations, and it's dire, you know. So, but yeah, just one of the things I heard was from Paige was that she'd heard at her meetings was, you know, that indoor events are going to be looked at differently versus outdoor events, just because of, you know, the virus and everything like that. And so expect outdoor events to be, I guess, reopened, you know, sooner than large scale events indoors.
Okay. You said something, Brandon, that made me think about operations at the community center and how we might schedule times for certain groups. And, and you also use Dyer. And I want to put out there that our staff is engaged. We, we are on, I mean, we want to put our foot on the gas, but with the uncertainty, we can't. But at the same time, program specialists are thinking about, okay, what this looks like in the future. How do we come out of this? What can we do to modify programs? We've thought about, just last week, a couple weeks ago, how can we still offer some type of service to the community? We want, the thought was chalk art type program, and we distribute chalk. Another was kite flying, and we get the kites and let the kids build their kites and fly them. But we were advised by the health department not to distribute things, and working through and putting that energy into how could we safely and know we're safely distributing art supplies and kites to so we pitched that, and it was advised right now that we just hold off. But I do want to say staff remains engaged. They remain hopeful. They they'll get creative. But right now it's just, and I think someone said it's day by day, and not being able to put your foot on the gas and say, hey, we want to do this.
Terry?
So yes.
I guess I understand why the health department doesn't want things to be distributed, but I wonder if they would object to having some sort of online chalk art fest where kids could do chalk art with chalk they already have in front of their houses and take pictures and post them to your website or something. Because I know the kids in my neighborhood are doing chalk art everywhere, and it's really cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And Emily Beveridge, who's a program specialist, she's doing a virtual type program now, and that is something that we could do and incorporate that and post pictures and even give prizes or just just the sharing of it. Yeah, I could see where that could definitely be done and go a long way. So yeah.
And Terry, just to follow up with that, maybe even thinking creatively about offering classes like yoga and Pilates, which can be done online in small spaces. Of course, they will have to have the technology, but that's a way for people to remain active. And for those who don't feel safe being outside or around other people, it might be a way for them to stay engaged and to stay physically active.
Yeah, that's a good thought too, Travis. I know we're posting. We had one of our part-time staff. He posted a fitness video, so we're trying to keep them engaged to the extent that we can. And Caitlin's been posting different exercises that you can do from home. One of the thoughts I have when we get back to something that's semi-normal is, we could possibly use the outdoor area, the pool deck for sunrise yoga and that sort of thing. But yeah, we're gonna have to think along those lines, definitely.
Hey Terry,
Yeah.
One positive thing under a mountain of terrible things is, if one thing we're finding with Brew Week at least is, if we're not able to do Brew Week, that does give us time to look at a time that, normally this is the summer, this is a busy time for all of us, and so we can't plan for larger things later in the fall or winter. So, I mean, that is one thing I'm sure you're sharing with your staff is, if you're not, managing the pool and doing all the activities and camp and everything like that, you might be able to create a new program that happens during a time. You guys just don't have the energy to do that. We're looking at, maybe if we can't do Brew Week, maybe looking at doing a winter beer festival or something like that, because I wouldn't have to, basically facilitate a 9-day festival right now and then be burned out, and then go into Halloween. I have some time to look at that. So that is one kind of positive thing in this whole thing. I don't know, that you guys probably just may look at, you just have some time to focus that. The other thing I've been personally finding, because my whole life is just large gatherings and, whatnot, is people are much more comfortable. Travis said, doing the yoga stuff, doing things remotely just because we have to. I think more people can say they've watched a concert, live on their computer or TV and something like that, which that people say, I would never watch a concert on TV. I would just have to go there. But, a lot more people have found that it's really not that bad. You're at home, you watch it from 7 to 9 and you don't have to drive to the parking lot. You're just there and you just turn it off and you can go to your bed, So I think looking at some of the programs we have, I think it seemed odd before, but I think a lot more people are willing and know the platform. I don't think most of us have used Zoom before this. Now we're using it and understanding it and finding new ways. And I think, Shauna said something about an esports tournament. That would be awesome. I think that'd be a great idea. I mean, I play video games right now, and that is something that I'm sure a lot of the students and kids here in town are doing, and maybe just having somehow putting in a Mario Kart tournament or something like that and having it feed through the website or something would be just another way to engage kids who are, feeling left out.
I would absolutely second that. I think Shauna and Brandon's ideas are really good. And I guess I would just add my 2 cents that I think the more that you could try to keep your members connected, kids as well as adults, the better for them and their kind of mental health right now. But also maybe, I hate to raise the specter of this, but maybe that would dissuade some of them from going to Planet Fitness when things open back up, just try to build a sense of community and build loyalty and have fun things going on right now until things, just to keep people together and interested in the community center and the parks until things open back up.
If you want to see what both Beth and Brandon are talking about, Saturday night, 8 o'clock, right here local, Fur Peace Ranch has been running for the last 2 weeks, live concert. It's Yorma, also a guest or two, and it's also interactive, to Beth's point, keeping people engaged. So Saturday night, 8 o'clock on the Fur Peace YouTube channel, you can actually see how someone's doing it here locally, and some ideas might spring out of that, how we can adapt that to the department. Plus, it's good music.
Right. No, I agree. Just with this conversation, my thought was, there's an opportunity we had done featured members at the community center. We could do that. And post those via Facebook as well. So I'll definitely have this conversation with staff and pitch these ideas when I meet with them on Wednesday. The last thing I had is, and I had hoped to post it, but or be able to share my page. Rob Deloach contacted me, and the Bikeway Committee has been working with the City County Health Department and has come up with COVID guidelines to be mindful of when using the bikeway. I forward this to Caitlin. She's already posted it on our Facebook page. But he asked that I share this with the advisory board. I'll send this to you via email since I couldn't share the page, but their guidelines for using the bikeway: 1, do not gather on the path, keep 6-foot distance from others while saying hello. 2, when passing others, pass single file, do not walk or ride too wide to allow others to pass at a distance. I think that speaks to something you mentioned, Daniel. Too wide meaning 2 people wide. And then call out on your left or ring bike bell when passing others. So we'll push this out via Facebook, and I didn't follow up with Rob to know if this information was being posted on the bike trail, and I'll do that because it is definitely something that we could do, is get the signs and post them. So I wanted to share that and say thank you to Rob for sharing that with us. Anything else?
I have a question, Terry. Has there been anything surprisingly positive in this situation you found? You know, during the cleaning, you found that, I don't know, a hidden treasure, or just, you know, I don't know, just something positive. Because I know it's like doom and gloom, and you know, and everything's impacted and everything. I just didn't know if you guys found anything. You you found you were closer to the staff or something, or I don't know.
So, no treasures have been found. And, I'm glad you brought that up, Brandon, because we started our staff meeting last Wednesday with what their positives were for the week. But what I'm realizing is that, we're really, we miss the things that we can't have. We're really happy to see each other when we meet on Wednesdays. So just that whole human connection. And I want to say that, the sharing and the conversation tends to be more authentic and not routine. So just connecting with staff and, giving each other the grace that none of us have gone through this before, and having that empathy with each other to say, to recognize that, and to help each other out and pick up pieces. And because through this, like I said, it's not just one specific program area. So we're all kind of looking out for the department as a whole and not looking specifically that's your program area. So yeah, that's my takeaway. The cleaning, we're not done yet. the more doors we open, the more we find. But the overall attitude and commitment has just been great from staff, from custodial staff to park maintenance staff, to our admin and program specialists. So just recognizing, their commitment and how they move through this. Alan, I'll say we have the trophies boxed up.
Good deal. Unfortunately, that building's not open to take them into.
That's option A. That's option B.
Yeah, shoot, I thought you were going to say you found some priceless paintings or something, or a copy of the Declaration of Independence behind something.
No, not yet. We're still hopeful. Yeah. Anything else for me? I can, yeah, I mean, I can send you anything that you think you might want to see or have. Again, I meet with staff on Wednesdays. That's usually when I have any new information. Our city, the mayor's meetings are the second and fourth Monday of the month. So,
Hey, Terry, I posted in the chat. Could you get some of those like handheld air horns for your lifeguards if needed? That way they wouldn't have to take the mask off and blow the whistle. They could just, yeah, it's an idea.
absolutely. That's a great idea. Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
loud and they don't have to blow on anything. So I don't know. When the time comes, it's a thought.
Yeah, they'll love those.
Is there any
Good
other?
thought, and I'm open to suggestions. I hope we have the opportunity to use those this summer.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Any other new business to report?
That's it. I think that's enough.
Yep. According to the agenda, we got the other items, the Friends of APR, and Brandon and I met a long time ago over spring break, and we had some plans. We were discussing some terminology and the mission and the vision, and then the stay-at-home order started to come out, and I think we decided to table it to, just for a little while to see how things were going to shake out. And here it's been 5 or 6 weeks now, so I don't know. I think we could probably work behind the scenes, get the wording hammered out, maybe get some of the paperwork started. I worry with how to advertise it because, everyone's struggling right now, and it doesn't seem like a very good time to launch some, hey, come give us, help and money and things like that. So maybe we should talk about a new plan on how to use this organization to help in light of recent events, maybe kind of shifting it a bit. Yeah, Beth.
Your point is well taken, but my perception at least is that there are a lot of people in town right now who are really committed to trying to help our community and are looking for more ways to do so. And so it seems possible to me that if you put out a request for donations right now to keep the parks going or something, that you might get a really positive response, actually.
Okay.
Just my 2 cents, but people I've had conversation with friends, and we're just trying to figure out how to help the community and keep the economy going and create jobs and, just make sure that we come out of this as hopefully an even better community than we were before. And supporting the parks and arts, parks and rec might be really appealing to people.
Cool. All right. Yeah, that's great. Alan, did you have I saw your thing go off there.
Yeah, I was just curious, before we can ask for money or accept money, do you have any kind of an idea, Shauna, of the timeline to become an official organization to be able to do that?
No, I know, Brandon, you've done this before, right? I know there's a wait period and some paperwork that needs to be filed. So we do have some time before we're officially an entity. So it's probably a good idea to get that going now so we can prepare for getting the community involved sooner rather than later, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's and there's two things. I mean, to become like a 501c3, that usually takes a while, and that's, to have tax-free donations. But we could still accept money, but it wouldn't be tax-free, which, some people would probably not want to make donations in that way. But yeah, one of the things that when, Sean and I met, we were like, oh, we'll just, we're really busy. We'll just wait a little bit. We didn't realize it would be this long, but, we were trying to figure out the membership and everything and reaching out. And, I think we've all been trying to figure out, what we're doing before we reach out to others to have them join. But yeah, I mean, I'll give kudos to Shauna. She's done most of the work. I've just kind of shown up to the meetings and stuff like that. And, but the last place we left it was really trying to create like a diverse membership of people, interests, and everything like that. Because what we're trying to do is not mimic our current, I guess, dynamic of what we're doing. We don't want to just copy the rec department and the membership. We kind of want to maybe reach out to different groups that may not have had the same access or whatever, because they might be just waiting for an ask or whatnot. So.
Yeah, don't let it fool you. I couldn't be doing all this without Brandon's help and input. It's been invaluable. So it's definitely a team project here. So maybe next week or later on, we can start some Zoom meetings and get back on track and at least work behind the scenes and keep it going, I guess. And then when we get to a point where we're ready to launch, like Beth says, maybe we can, come up with a plan and reach out to some people who'd be willing to help get us back on track when we're finally allowed to leave our homes again and go out and recreate. So that'd be great. So, does anyone have anything else to report?
I just want to say thanks to you all. And I think that something to think about is just how your advisory role may shift or change as we move through this, because we are going to have to shift gears. And as we move through that, it's going to be imperative to bring things to the advisory board that we haven't necessarily brought forward before. So I just think with so many unknowns, I feel supported with this group and feel like I have a good resource. So thank you.
All right, well, it's 3:28 p.m. and I motion to adjourn. Anyone? Okay, Beth, okay. Guess we'll adjourn. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you. See you soon.